Good evening, welcome to Who Corner to Corner. My name is Geoff and tonight I'm joined by...
Hi, I'm Paul.
Me.
That's that is the voice of youth. That is Freya, who has joined us on a few other podcasts. We did invite Freya on originally because we thought it would be interesting to have the voice of the new generation of Doctor Who fans taking part in our podcast. What we failed to realise was how sarcastic and how cutting they were going to be.
Well,
but nonetheless, we can deal with that. We're responsible adults most of the time.
Some of it.
Something like that. Anyway, yes. It is obviously a delight to have my daughter join us on this podcast.
Yeah, that's what she's told you to say, isn't it? So we're here tonight to talk about episode 3 of Flux, which is Once Upon Time.
Oh my goodness.
So, last night, as anyone who follows us might have known, I was not able to watch the episode when it went out, or even close to when it went out, because
you were doing something else, weren't you, Geoff?
Yeah.
Basically, you'd already booked something else to do when Doctor Who was on. I mean,
Yeah.
I changed all my plans once I realised that there were certain clashes. I cancelled a few things, shifted my diary around a bit just to make sure that I was free.
You said you might miss the final
on Sunday nights. Exactly, that's it. I thought I might miss the final. I had something booked on what I then realised was going to be the final episode date of the final episode of Flux Chapter 6. So I cancelled it completely just to make sure that I'm here.
Yeah, see that.
But you went ahead, right? You just said, no, Doctor Who, mate, I don't mind.
I'd already paid for it.
I'll go see Spaceman instead.
I was taking my wife to it, and I thought I better not turn around and say I can't go now.
Yeah, that's a different thing, that is, mate. Yeah, don't mess there.
So I turned off the notifications on Twitter.
Good job.
Because I didn't want to see things popping up, and you text me and you said, "Stay off the internet. Seriously, don't go on it." You said a few minutes later. So I thought, well, I'll switch off the notifications.
Yeah.
And then I started watching the episode about 11 when I got home.
Wow, that was late.
Yeah, and so yeah, I kind of missed everything when it was happening, when it was going out. But I think it's safe to say that it was a bit of a mind blower, wasn't it?
It was definitely an interesting one. What you neglected to tell our dear listeners there was that I texted you in capital letters to not, under any circumstances, look at the internet until you've watched the episode. Do not. Big letters, big bold capitals, and everything, because it was astonishing. I mean, it wasn't it, Freya?
Yeah.
She's just yawning. It's getting a bit late for her, to be honest. You know, these kids these days, they don't have the stamina that we used to back in our day.
We're talking about.
But it was something. I mean, it was full of. Do you know what? I don't even know where to start talking about this episode. I think maybe.
Start from the very beginning.
Okay,
do that.
Yeah. Right, right. So it started with.
Come on, Geoff, pull it into some sort of focus for us, mate.
It started with the resolution of the cliffhanger from last week, which was
yes, it did.
Swarm going to snap his fingers to channel all of the energy of time into Yaz and see if she could take it, when obviously she wouldn't be able to.
Yes.
So we started here with a really slow motion sequence, kind of voiced by the Doctor, showing sort of what her brain is working like all the time. Who's dangerous? Who's in trouble? How likely are my friends to die?
Yeah,
how do I get out? And all these things. So everything moving slow, but the thoughts racing at a million miles an hour. And she jumped onto one of the Maury
the platforms,
pedestals, to put herself into Yaz's position instead, and have all of the time energy channeled into her.
Which just that moment there where everything's kind of slowed down. Did that remind you of any previous episode when the Doctor, when we're suddenly made privy to the Doctor's thought processes? What about you, Freya? Remind you of anything? Do you not remember?
There's a bit in 11th Hour like it.
There you go. That's what I'm thinking
Yeah.
of. Yeah.
When the camera, that was a whole sequence of still photos, wasn't it?
It
Taken.
was, yeah. But it
To
was the same kind of idea, though, wasn't it? You know, where we're
yeah.
suddenly taken into the Doctor's head and realise how fast thought processes go. Do you remember that? Matt Smith, when he's the 11th Doctor, when he's first there and he's in the park and he sees Rory, he sees the phone, he sees the people in the phone box, he sees lack of ducks on the pond and all sorts of other things.
All the stuff he's taken in one go. Yeah, the Doctor jumps into the onto the pedestal, doesn't she, and gets kind of all the energy of time going into it, and then so it started out, you know, quite exciting, and then it starts to go a bit bonkers after that, doesn't it? And she ends up sort of falling through the time energy, and is then greeted by the Maury. Is that how you pronounce them? I keep forgetting that.
Yeah, Maury.
And they're giant, three of them, and they reminded me a bit of like the Watcher from What If on the Marvel show.
See, now you would say you say the Watcher, because I think your mental space is predisposed towards Marvel, quite significantly. I hope you don't mind me saying so.
No.
I think that's a fair, fair assessment of your preferences, if you like. Whereas I thought, personally, I thought Mentiads from the Pirate Planet. Mentiads. Honestly, Google them right now. If you never have seen Mentiads or Mentiads or whatever they are, Freya's Googling right away. Doctor Who, the Pirate Planet, Pirate Planet, a Planet of Pirates. It's not quite like that. But anyway, there were these like dudes in close. Yeah, you see, the 14-year-old's got it. She's got it right there. Mentiads. You know,
they do look the same.
They look very, very similar, which I thought was great. And then she says, like, and the Doctor's like, "Oh, hello, supersize," or something like that, isn't it? Because they're massive. They're massive Maori Mentiad things, you know, creatures of intelligence. Yeah.
So they explain that. I don't really know how to follow that.
So, I'm just messing with you.
So they explain that she's now sort of essentially it was the heart of all time, wasn't it? You know.
Yeah, and this is where it starts getting. Okay, so we have on here we have quite a complex sequence. It's not it's actually quite straightforward sequence of events.
Can I just ask?
But they're all kind of go on.
Did you find this episode confusing?
Yes.
Freya did. Yeah, I didn't, because I take this kind of thing in my stride. I found it complex. I don't know about confusing. I thought the first 5 or 10 minutes, like, well, okay, what's going on here then? This is all very strange. But it's like again, it's like, I'm sure I've used the analogy before of like having a jigsaw box.
It was a lot better because we watched it again just now. Because
we had to.
I was just like, we can't. I need to watch it again. And then as we watched it again and we knew what stuff was going to happen later, it became easier to understand.
Yeah, it wasn't confusing. It was complex. Like you say, Paul, there was a lot going on.
It's nice to work it out.
Yeah, exactly. It is like having a puzzle box. It is like being, I'm going to return to my jigsaw analogy because I didn't get to finish it. But imagine you've got a jigsaw, right? And you're not even shown the cover on the box, right? And suddenly somebody throws a bunch of pieces at you. It's like that. It's just they're thrown, they're scattered, they're all over. And you sort of pick them up. And the first few ones you pick up, you've no idea what they represent, what they're a part of, where they go or anything. But you kind of tentatively place them. And then as it goes along, as you start to pull the pieces out, you start to see how they fit. Eventually a picture forms. And then you start to see it. So I think, okay, so there's that bit there. There's this piece. Those two things connect. These three things now connect. And if I turn this bit on its head, if I turn it sideways or full on, that actually fits rather nicely into the middle bit there. That's how I sort of look at it. And I think also because what we have is we have 1, 2, 3, 4 characters. So we've got the Doctor, we've got Yaz, we've got Vinda, and we've got Dan. Each of those people has now been placed vertically into their own time streams. So, or into their own memories. So, but it's a mix of memories and stuff that is actually happening with Yaz. Exactly. She had the future thing, didn't she? Because something is disrupting the time stream. But the way memory works, so within those time streams, faces looked familiar. So people who weren't Dan and Yaz in the Doctor's time stream looked like Dan and Yaz.
Yeah.
But in some ways, this is how memory kind of plays tricks on our own minds. When we think back and we think when you can't remember faces clearly, and you tend to sort of, or when you have dreams even, and when you picture familiar faces in unfamiliar settings or whatever it be, whatever way around it is, that kind of whole fragmentary recollective process, which it is never consistent. From one person to the next, from one memory to the next. I thought it was great at kind of having a stab at showing us what that process might look like, with a pretty neat sci-fi Doctor Who-y kind of spin on it.
I thought it was really good, and Matt Strevens talks. I saw a tweet from him. He's the exec with Chibnall, and he was talking in DWM about it, and he said, basically we haven't tried anything like this before, and he was right, and you tweeted about it. After all these years, there's still things they can do with the show to keep it fresh.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the episode was not confusing. There was a lot going on in it.
People are entitled to find it confusing because they can. It is not a linear narrative. It's not a A to B to C to D story told as in that linear fashion, right? It's a story. It's you can't even say in some ways that it is actually a story. It's, for me, it reads like an episode of connective things. It's almost like connecting the cliffhanger from episode 2 to wherever we're going to pick up in episode 4. But within that, it's showing us a little bit about Dan. It's distressed the relationship between the Doctor and Yaz. So that is not in such a happy place now. It's really stressed out the Doctor because she's had glimpses of what happened when she was Dr. Ruth, and she wants to know more, and she can't because the Maoris stopped her. Exactly. She's desperate. Wasn't she desperate in that
really
when she's literally begging them to go back and show her more stuff? That in her voice, it's coming through. You can't do this to me. Tell me more. She's really in for it, and it raises. That's the word she said. Well done. That's why we have 14-year-olds on the podcast.
You literally just watched it.
Yeah, I know, but like I said, memory works weirdly when you're older.
But I realised we watched it today at 6:30 till 20 to 7, like it was on Sunday.
So we watched it exactly 24 hours later. That's amazing.
Your jigsaw analogy is right, because you can't really look at any of this.
Geoff said I was right.
You can't look at it in almost in individual episodes. I think that's why they've called it chapters, because this is it's Flux is 6 hours long. This isn't a season made up of 6 different episodes. It's all, like you said, it's connective tissue. So if you're watching it and you think, what's the guy in the tunnels in Victorian Liverpool? What's he doing? Well, we're going to find that out. So
exactly. Yeah. It's not explained within that story, is it? It wasn't explained in the Halloween apocalypse.
No.
He appeared again in the War of Santarans, kind of just racing through the Temple of Antipas. We don't know how he got there, where he thought he was, why he thought he was doing there, anything. But
all of this is...
It's for later on, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And all of this plays to Chibnall's strengths. And
absolutely, it does.
Also
it's serialized storytelling. That's what it is.
And it's very different to anything we've had on the show forever in New Who. And so I suppose that, in some ways it is a bit of a shock to the system to have something so different. But, I think it's the kind of thing that if you watched it all in one hit, when it comes out, when it's finished, I think it will play brilliantly for anyone who's not quite sort of got it just yet, and they're finding it a bit puzzling. It's a bit like in a way The 100. I don't know if you've ever watched it, but that show has always got tons going on it. And watching it week to week, it all moves in a linear fashion, but there's so much happening in it that when you watch it weekly, it can be hard to remember what's gone on 3 episodes ago and why that's happening, and blah blah blah. But when you watch it all in a condensed, binge, almost like when I've bought recent series on Blu-ray and watched it, you get it all a lot better because you're more concentrated and you're getting answers quicker and following it, in a better flow. So no, I don't think it was confusing or you know.
But you thought it was a bit confusing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you mean? Yeah. Why?
I don't know. Confused.
Was it difficult? Did you find it difficult to follow though?
Yeah, I found a lot of things. The thing is, though, I have a really bad habit, and it really annoys me. I tune out, and it actually annoys me because I don't just do it when I get bored. I do it all the time, and then I'm suddenly like, "Wait, what's going on?"
Yeah, this is starting.
I find it very hard to concentrate for a whole hour.
This is a post-millennial thing, completely. I think, isn't it? This is a Gen Z.
This is becoming
short attention spans. Yeah,
it's becoming episodes of the show now where you can't zone out on it. You know,
no, I don't think you can.
Too much is happening.
I think you enjoyed it though, right?
Yeah,
Would it be fair
the
to say you
second
still
time
enjoyed
around
it?
was definitely better.
I mean, I was confused at the beginning.
I definitely understood it more.
Why is Dan here now? Why has he got a division gun? And you know, that's something that I felt quite a bit in some Chibnall episodes. There's a bit of a, you know, he's quite. I think it's a bit underappreciated, maybe the sort of mystery element of a lot of his stuff, where you don't.
Yeah, agreed.
In The Woman Who Fell to Earth, you know, what are those electric square things that Ryan saw in the sky? What's that oniony looking ship plant thing or whatever it was? You know what I mean? You don't get the answers immediately, and you know, I think obviously that kind of goes back to his crime sort of background, you know, because this in a way this is a whodunit.
Exactly that. It is.
You
it
watch
follows that format.
Yeah, you watch
and when that doctor is going out of the time stream and she sees that lady and she's like, no, the flux isn't natural. It's not something that is made there. It was put there. It was used as a weapon against her. So you know it's not.
That was as you were saying that.
Yeah.
No, it was the old lady, wasn't it?
Oh, the white haired one.
The old lady. Yeah.
So well, if we go back a little bit,
we jump forward a lot there. But then that's the nature of this episode. I think. I think we're probably going to be doing that a lot.
It's just too much timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff.
Oh, you had to say, didn't you?
So we start following the main characters, don't we?
We do, yeah.
So you're not sure initially whether it's a sort of, you know, a dream or you know, someone else's memory or their memory, and you know, Dan's getting very confused about, you know, why is Passenger there, and you know,
after a little while he gets confused. Firstly, he's not confused at all, is he? Because he's got, so we've seen when he's got the two coffee cups, and he meets what's her name, Diane outside where she's coming out of. And he's like, you know, they're having a little chit chat. Yeah, that sort of thing. And we go from they're walking down the high street, and then literally within a frame, they're walking through a sort of ruined cathedral type thing without breaking the flow of the conversation. Dan doesn't notice. Now we notice.
He does. He says he lost his bearings.
But after a little while, doesn't he? He stops. So he's still talking, talk, and then he stops, and it's like, you know, and she's like, "You're right," and then they see the swarmy things, don't they? The blue things and then suddenly it's daytime and then it's nighttime. They're on the steps. She's then giving him giving him what for
and that was a nice scene.
That was later on, wasn't it?
No, she didn't have a go at him. She asked him why he wasn't married, and
that's it. It's later on when she pops out a Passenger that she has a go of him. But now we understand the context for that. You know, that's the thing. It's like these, even within the episode, these little setups are there. You know, the relationship with Diane, which we haven't seen her since chapter 1. I don't think she was in chapter 2, was she?
No.
But she got snatched by angels. She had an angel.
Claire.
No. Diane went into the house, didn't she? She went into the house with a shiny light and everything.
Yes.
The big spooky weird house, which may have been a metaphor of, or may have been like Passenger. Oh my God, Passenger is like a flipping TARDIS, isn't he? Right? Because they've got hundreds of thousands of people. Oh my God! Did you ever read? I just thought of it literally just now, ladies and gentlemen. Any Eighth Doctor fans out there remember Compassion, who was a TARDIS, a human form TARDIS, which is essentially what Passenger is, right? It must be the same sort of technology, mate. It's got to be, isn't it?
Do you think that creepy house in black and white was something to do with him?
What, Passenger?
Yeah.
I don't know.
If he's turned into if that bit of Diane going into the house with the angel was like going into
him. Right. No, Claire went into the house with the angels.
Yeah.
Or she was snatched from going.
Me.
Yeah, I'm confusing me now. Hold on, we
Well,
need to watch
it was
again. Claire went into the house. She was stalked by an angel. It nabbed her. Right. Diane was waiting for Dan. Right.
Yeah.
And she thought she heard something. Walked down the street a bit. Saw this house. Opened the door. There was like a big blazing light.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened to her for that point. But now we know exactly. Now we know she's in passenger. She's been nabbed by swarms of Sil, placed in passenger. And as we heard them explain when they had the flashback to the the Ruth Doctor bit, passenger contains hundreds of thousands of lives, people, hostages, and the Doctor, the Ruth Doctor, uses a passenger to smuggle the Maori into the temple of Atropos and defeat the Ravagers at the same time, right? So passenger is a human form thing that contains lots of other things in the hundreds and thousands. That to me sounds very much like a TARDIS. And I just had it in my mind just when I said that a minute ago, that reminded me the Eighth Doctor adventure books, where Compassion, a human form TARDIS, was carrying the Doctor and co around the universe and had a personality and had some very strange quirks, and potentially, at least at the start, we thought she had a sinister agenda and all sorts of things. It was like the idea of a sentient TARDIS taken to another degree, whereas maybe because there's references here to the dark times, right? Was it the whole division thing? Get this. This is the end of your bit, boss, isn't it? You do this, you can, you're free or something. I think is mentioned. And it's an end to the dark times. We know there's been dark times in Gallifrey. We've had it referenced plenty of times in the old series, the Five Doctors, particularly,
and
books,
Time Lord Victorious recently.
Yeah, there you go. See, so it is a thing. It is a part of Gallifreyan history, and obviously, Doctor Ruth was a big part of it. The Division were a big part of it. The Ravagers were part of it, and so was Passenger. And that technology, I think they said it had been outlawed or something, wasn't it? They're using outlawed technology or something that was banned or whatever it was, not allowed in this dimension or this universe or something. We don't do the Passenger here; it's not allowed. So. There's lots of stuff. Mate, there is so much to unpick in this single episode. It literally fries my brain just thinking about it. It's on my brain fried.
It's steaming. I can see it coming out.
Steaming.
There was, all sorts of bits of kind of plot development and revelations things. Plus, the characters were getting moved forward a bit as well. The
they were. There was a lot of great fun to be had as well. I mean, what was the bit that made me absolutely die? It was when Yaz and the Doctor are in the police car.
That was brilliant.
And Jodie, she played it brilliantly. And she's done. So I told him, and he told me, and I said this, and he said that, and da 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 da.
Anyway, I'm never going in that shop again. I don't even care about Satsumas.
Brilliant. I love that. They have far too much fun making this program.
Yeah, you can tell they really enjoy it all.
Oh, totally.
So you just start to see the Doctor with Dan and Yaz and Vinda, but they've all got division guns and armor and things, and we keep leaping backwards and forwards, and we see bits of Vinda's story, and he's seeing Yaz in the scenario, but it's not her. In the actuality of it, and he's getting a bit puzzled because that's not how it happened, and now this is interesting because it works within the narrative of everything, but also it was probably a COVID requirement as well.
Very.
That's what I was thinking when we were watching it.
You could tell that all of Joe Martin's stuff was green screened in, and probably because they couldn't have her come into set for a day and muck up the bubble of everything, and maybe she logistically couldn't get there. So, and the same with these, the guy that Yaz was being when she was talking to Vinda and stuff.
Yes.
So very clever by Chibnall to make it work like that and to fit these production difficulties. So when those pictures of the Doctor in her dark coat were revealed, I thought, I bet that is her Jodie going through memories as 13.
Did you think that? You got that?
Fugitive. Well, Or it was an evil version of her from another dimension. But I thought that's
there was a lot of
way too much.
speculation that it might be, like a Valeyard evil Doctor type thing.
Well, you say, I said, could have been an evil version, but let's be honest. Fugitive Doctor is not the, she's pretty mean.
She's
I
pretty
think.
direct.
Yeah,
Yeah. She's quite brutal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when
I
we
mean,
saw,
she snatched off the rhino
yeah,
horn of the
she beat the
Dune
heck out of
that
it.
time.
Has no problem
Yeah,
with
she
it
did.
done. And they've said to, Swarm said to her, you think that by killing us, you stopping us killing people or something like that. He said, your moral.
Oh, you kill us to stop us killing other people. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. Something like that, wasn't it? Yeah.
I mean,
He does say
the Doctor does do. They do kill people, but they try to. It's a grey area and a fine line, isn't it? It's not really
a lot of death follows the Doctor.
Yes, and it's not necessarily murder per se, but it's trapping things and punishing them, and but it's always trying. Basically, at the beginning, it's always just clear off, and we'll forget this has ever happened, and then they refuse, and so they got to get their ass kicked.
I think what we've also got with this one as well, though, is that the Fugitive Doctor is very much being forced to work for the division. Yes, she's the boss because she's referenced to as the boss, but they're also threatening to take her out if these what they call them time haze things that they think she's suffering from.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And there is that line which Dan, who turns out to be Carvanista, right? So because he's got the same weapon and he phases into the Carvanista dog figure, and Carvanista, as we know, is the last remaining operative of the division, or at least that the Doctor can find, right?
Well, so that's interesting because
that's a proper link back to that moment.
Yeah,
but
so 13 doesn't know that she was pals with him all that time ago.
No, well, she does now. Now she knows, so she can get straight back onto the old Muttley and have that proper one-to-one to him.
And presumably, Carvanista doesn't know, doesn't remember either, or isn't saying anything. Yeah. Because I got the feeling. Well, I tweeted a theory that maybe Fugitive Doctor has because they said the flux was made like you said, Freya. It was a weapon that was created. Somewhere I saw that the flux is a metaphor for COVID coming out of a lab.
Who knows? Who knows?
But it said the flux was released and created, and there was something that made me think. Well, the implication was that it came from the Fugitive Doctor doing something. Did you pick up on that, or have I just misinterpreted?
I'm still confused. I don't think we have enough information, rather, to work out really what the flux is properly. No. I think we're starting to get some kind of a weapon.
Yeah.
But was it like a weapon made by time against space, or was it the other way around?
Something
because that was quite an interesting thing. All right, so we've had Daleks v Cybermen before, right? That was something Russell T Davies pulled together. Now we've got space versus time, which is quite an interesting. For me, it's a more interesting concept, actually. And I think the implication is here is that time always wins, which I suspect it probably does, because time's arrow shoots through everything. Everything breaks down. Entropy can't be reversed, and all that sort of stuff. It's you drop a glass on a glass, it smashes on the floor. It can't reassemble unless you wind back time. But nothing that we know of has the mastery to enable that to happen.
Unless
we're dealing with a planet called time, where time has been harnessed, where it can be used, where it can be weaponized, where it can be fractured, and within those fractures, angels can dip in to kind of upset things, introduce chaos, and turn things to their own advantage. Oh my goodness, mate, there is so much going on in this episode. It is ridiculous.
Either Chibs either he's a mad genius and he's planned all of this out, or he's really lucky and it's all making.
It's all just making it all up.
I think
it's imagination, isn't it? This is why I get on, because I I won't say that I dislike having things spelled out to me. I do like the comfort of having this means whatever it is, and this is the story, and everybody does this, and if the story's good enough, that's fine. That's everyday type stuff, and it can either be good or bad. It could be plain, it could be boring, it could be really exciting. But what is more exciting to me, as personally, is when they mix it up. I'm sure I've said either on this podcast or on our MCU podcast that one of my favorite ever pieces of television is A Singing Detective by Dennis Potter. In fact, pretty much any Dennis Potter work, but The Singing Detective particularly, because it is the refinement of a particular type of puzzle box narrative where people's memories that aren't reliable anyway in the first place are called upon within the narrative to provide the impetus for things to happen. Things that happen because I remember this, this thing that happened years ago, but actually it only happened in that way to one person. That same event from another person's perspective happened in a completely different way. And that's almost kind of, I think, where we're sort of treading here. And you've got things that are half remembered. You've got things that are actually experienced. You've got things that happened in the past affecting things that happen now and potentially in the future. But we don't know how those pieces all connect at first. And we won't until we get to some point much, much later in the story. This is that place where the puzzle box is all up in the air. We've had the ground, and we know there's an apocalypse. We know the flux is a dangerous thing. We don't know what it is. We've had the Centaurans trying to get in on the act, trying to use it to their advantage to wage a war on time and do their sort of thing. And in the meantime, we've got the TARDIS sort of breaking itself apart, becoming something of a cubist or Isha, kind of nightmare sort of stuff. We got far too many. We got too much input. We don't at the moment know how to assemble all that into something that can fully make sense. We can see pieces of it that make piecemeal
sense.
That's
the joy of it, I think.
Definitely.
They haven't done there's never been an arc this dense and layered on it. And I think
I don't think it's an arc as such. Like you said, Geoff, it's one story told.
That's the word. It's literally a story, and I think that's brilliant. I'm loving that. We don't know where it's going to go and what's going to happen, and who's to say that parts of this will finish by the end of Flux?
Well, indeed, Chapter 6 might not be the end, might it? It might go on. We got the specials afterwards.
3 more to come. There's so much to talk about in this. I want to say that I think in Jodie's Doctor, Chibbs has given us a Doctor that's had more dramatic moments and more development and things to challenge and push them than any other Doctors had before.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Fraser, one of those moves today, aren't you? You're just like, sure, whatever. Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Just agree with me.
So, this probably. Anyway, I found weird when they were in like the memory stuff. So like, Yaz wasn't really sure what was happening. She knew something was going wrong because she kept on seeing the Doctor change into the people she knows, and then the Doctor was coming back, and then the Doctor did end up explaining it to her. So she knows it through that. And Dan knows something is a bit off, but like the Doctor does come to him. Whereas with Vinder, he's like, Yaz is there, but this isn't how Yaz is. Wait, this is a memory. He seems to figure it out a bit more than Dan and Yaz.
Well,
so he's like,
he's not just. Yeah, he's used. Well, he's, I think, from the Division, and he's got, experience.
Do you think Vinder's from the Division?
Yeah.
Do you? What, unequivocally?
Yeah.
Do you think that as well?
What's the Division?
Oh my goodness.
Oh, Freya.
Where the fugitive Dr. Ruth comes from.
Oh, right. Didn't know that name.
The secret organisation.
Secret Gallifrey baddie busting bunch of.
And yet.
And that, the Doctor did come to Vinder, and she was kind of floating. He was like, "Don't mind me. I'm not interrupting." But Vinder is constantly saying, "Don't make me relive this. Don't make me relive this."
Well, he's obviously had something awful happen with the serpent, they kept calling it, and he ended up whistle blowing effectively, didn't he?
The head of the serpent
got banished.
It's almost like Vinda was trying to break through, whereas Daniels didn't really. They knew something was off, but they didn't know how, and they didn't know what was wrong.
Yeah,
I
think
Vinda seems a bit more sort of
clued in on it.
Yeah, but again,
then Belle says that they fought Daleks together.
They fought Daleks together. She knows Cybermen. And also, Vinda says as well, is that a TARDIS?
Yeah, and so he knows what that is, and he goes,
So maybe you're right. Maybe he's not in. Well, he could still be in the division, but in that adventure on Atropos, that may be the first time he's encountered.
Was that actually Vinda in Atropos though?
Or was that just the Doctor saying that lad?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, well done. I was going to say,
was it
that
Vinda,
lad, didn't she?
That lad who I haven't even met yet.
Yeah.
But then would it be that lad because the Doctor hasn't met him?
Well, that's the thing.
She's had no interaction with him.
No, you're right. So she's barely met him in the present day, and in the fugitive Doctor timeline, Dan is Carvanista. Yaz is that tall, bald guy. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And we don't really know who.
But we don't know if Vinda is Vinda or if Vinda is actually somebody else.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm kind of assuming it is, but actually you're right.
Well, that's the thing though, and that's why I love all these questions, because I didn't assume Vinda was actually Vinda in that, because none of the others were. So I thought, well, maybe he's a kind of a fake face.
That's what I thought, but then there was so much sort of confusion about it that I was like, I'm not really sure now. What was I just going to say? Oh, and Belle. Who's Belle?
Oh, we haven't even talked about Belle yet, have we? And she started the story.
Now, I don't. So people are saying that she said when she was trying to call Vinda, or maybe he might look different, and people are like, he's regenerated. They're obviously the Doctor's parents.
Well, you didn't say that,
but
did
then
you?
No, because she has the
She just means
hologram?
maybe she just means
him, and he looks like Vinda.
Maybe he's cut
so whenever they meet and he's older.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's reading too much into it.
I'm quite fortunate. I look exactly the same as I did when I was 18.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
I was just a very old-looking 18-year-old.
Is that why your webcam keeps going out of focus?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly that. Yeah, it's trying to reconcile me now with when I was in my teens. It has trouble. I don't have any trouble with that at all. Actually, works for me. Sorry, I digress.
Did you like the little Dalek cameo?
Ah, yeah, that was. I had to grab hold of your wrist, didn't I?
He gets him slapping me.
Yeah, well, that was unexpected, and they were floating on the ground.
They were great as well, weren't they? I mean, obviously CGI Daleks, floating Daleks, but again, it's good CGI. They sort of went behind the branch of the little twiggy trees things. They sort of appeared out. The lighting was pretty good, and I have to say, actually, just on that subject, I thought the CGI in this one was. It was ambitious, I think. Whether it quite reached the level of its ambition doesn't matter. It was ambitious. There were some big shots going on in there. There was like armies of Cybermen. We got a couple of seconds of the Crimean Sontaran army, right? And we got a couple of seconds of a massive cyber army we've never seen before.
So I think there's been a lot of really nice stuff in here. So like there was a shot with Belle.
That space station, that gateway station type thing that Vinda was looking out of. Right, this must be, right, we can probably check this out. Somebody will know this, but I think this must be the most effects heavy, or this must be the one episode of Doctor Who since forever that has required the most CGI work.
Yeah,
because it was
I've got a couple of thoughts here on this. So remember when people said, "Oh, Series 12, they were just stuck on Earth all the time."
I don't remember that, but I'll take your word for it.
Chibnall's like, "Yeah, look at this," and now
wait till you see what I got planned.
And I think you're right. The effects work in this is extremely heavy and also really good. Like there was a shot with Belle where she was looking out at the trees and the flux particles were wishing around. There was a great big planet in the sky in the background.
Yes, there was. Yeah, which didn't need to be there, right?
Didn't need to be there, but it was perfectly integrated.
And faint as well. You had to sort of...
Yeah, I didn't notice it immediately. The armies of Cybermen, all the space station stuff, and I think
grading the filter on the on the image itself, it's sort of purpley or orangey.
It's
all something.
And when they were walking on the surface of the planet to go to the temple, I thought it was really well done. The backgrounds were, all the big rocks and everything. And
I thought it was I mean, you know, with these things, right, we can always sort of look at them and say, well, they could have done a better job on that, you know. But
Do you
to
know,
be honest,
I don't think that.
I don't watch Doctor Who for the special effects, right?
No,
Because in the 70s, it was all cardboard toilet roll tubes and toothpaste and blokes with
bubble wrap.
cigarettes hanging from their mouths, balancing stuff on strings.
Yeah.
If you can cope with that, you can cope with, you know, CGI that isn't quite at the standard of the latest Star Wars or Marvel film.
But that's
It's
the
a
thing.
fraction of the budget.
Yeah, I don't think it's bad CGI. If you look at those,
it's pretty darn good CGI.
If you look at the planet and stuff, the design on it is great. The rendering and all of that, you know, artistry on it is brilliant. And yes, it's perhaps, you know, in some shots, particularly like the ones where the Doctor was falling through the sort of purpley blue time thing. It's obviously green screened, but
it's so Doctor Who though, isn't
and
it?
I think,
but how else is it going to be done? Do you know what I mean? And like the background effects are well done, but it's just that it's trying to do something very ambitious with visual effects that a TV budget can't handle.
Did a pretty darn job. What were you saying?
I don't think even with the shots of the Doctor, like in the time stream when she's talking to the mirror and like in between all the switching of different people's memories and stuff, I don't think that needed to be good CGI. It looked fine. It wasn't bad CGI.
It was fun as well.
It wasn't perfect, and it just fit the whole mood and tone of it. That it wasn't great.
Yeah, I think you're right. It does what it needs to do narratively. And do you know what? I'd rather we had amazing looking alien planets than amazing vortex fluff or whatever. You know? And they've chosen to spend their money wisely. And also another thought I had watching it is, so we've got, you know, quite a lot of returning monsters. And I think narratively that's all justified and working really nicely, but it's probably also a budget thing and a COVID thing.
Because they've already got the
you know, so we can bring back Cybermen, and you know, and I don't think it's a bad thing because I'd rather
we've still got the costumes from last season in the box. And the
Sontarans
they redesigned, didn't I? think the week
they've redone them and Swarm and everything. And I must say, I really like the design on previous Swarm before the new one.
That's a point. Because it was old school Swarm, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, do you remember when he was in the Halloween Apocalypse and he was tied to the big stone? He looked different before his renewal.
He's more kind of old and sort of jaggedy,
bony.
And bony. And then in the new one, he's more kind of crystalline and sleek.
I liked him when he's like Dan Lewis.
Yeah.
I have something of yours.
He plays it brilliantly. Yeah,
both of them, Azure and Swarm, they're just fabulous.
Yeah, the design on them is brilliant. So
it's everything. It's the way they move, the way they talk and just command the stage they're on.
Yeah, they're clearly having a great time with it as well.
Absolutely, all of it. Yeah, I love them.
I think Jodie. Well, I think everyone's doing a great job, but particularly in this episode, you know, she was on fire. I mean,
she was on fire.
Lots of little things, like when she was being fugitive Doctor, the way she walked was different. She had a bit of a swagger. I saw that her talking about that on video today, and held herself up for it. Had a little bit of swagger going on, and then like you guys mentioned earlier, when she was saying, tell me more. She's absolutely desperate to know who she is, what's happened, and this goes back to what I was saying that obviously with the other Doctors. This isn't a criticism, but I think it's. I'm loving seeing this much kind of dramatic stuff going on, because Gallifrey blowing up happened before we saw 9, and it was an event that kind of it informed the Doctor, 9 and 10 particularly, but it didn't happen to them on screen, and it wasn't really until the Day of the Doctor that there was any real kind of dealing with it in a way.
Good point.
And in the past seasons, the Doctor is largely the same at the beginning and the end, and there's bits. I remember the bit with the Doctor's daughter, where the Doctor's holding the gun and he's contemplating shooting the guy, and it's a really strong moment. Like the end of Waters of Mars and stuff. But it's just, do you know what I mean? It's quite brief moments that don't have any kind of lasting impact, particularly. Whereas all of this timeless child stuff is, shaping the whole character. And
if you think
like,
about it, and if you think about it from the Doctor's point of view, it must be really horrible and almost like torturous. I don't even know if that's a word, but is it fun?
It is
and
now.
it's like, just to not know that much about your past, to have this massive gap, like even though she's really old, not going to remember everything, but to have such a big gap that you didn't even know existed, like, I don't know, a couple of years ago or however long ago it was, I don't remember. And to not know about it and to only have just found out about it and to suddenly get a glimpse into it, and you'll want to know more, you'll crave to know more.
Yeah, and particularly when the stuff is not necessarily in line with how the Doctor wants to be.
It doesn't fit the narrative, so she knows something.
It's a bit like the War Doctor not using the name Doctor because it wasn't befitting of that persona. So I think. Do you not agree with me on that, Paul?
Oh no, I do agree with you. Yeah, I do. Although I think maybe you're sort of underselling Ten's little character moments slightly, because I think they're quite telling. I think they're maybe a little bit better than maybe you're giving them credit for. But
I think you're right. He because he's my second favourite Doctor.
Is he? You do have a tier of favourite Doctors then? Favourite to work.
I enjoy them all really, but
but you rank them.
I don't really like doing the ranking thing because I don't think
you do.
Really bad Doctor.
But,
you're right. He did have a lot of brilliant moments, like the end of Waters of Mars is outstanding, and his bit with Wilf at the end of Time. All that stuff about the 4 knocks was built up, and the whole time you thought it's going to be.
It was, but I think that there is a big difference, like you said, with the 13th Doctor though, and she reminds me more of the. Well, okay, so here's the thing. Ever since Jodie was cast as a Doctor, and ever since her first story, The Woman Who Felt the Worth, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's been having strong 5th Doctor vibes. There's a very similar. There's a kind of a charming sort of innocence. Not innocence is the wrong word. For 13th Doctor, she starts off in The Woman Who Felt the Worth as somebody who wants to have friends, which is actually in a lot of ways quite undoctorish. The Doctor is a bit of a Lone Ranger to a lot of guys, or at least would like people to think he is. Certainly the 12th Doctor is a bit of a Lone Ranger, right? I can't do with anybody, get out my way, get out my face, and all that sort of thing. Whereas the 13th Doctor is almost a complete antithesis of that. She wants to have friends. She wants to show that she has compassion, right?
That was one of the first things.
Exactly. It's one of the first things that was said. She wants to be, she's just a traveller. That's how she describes herself to Graham and Yaz and Ryan. She's just a traveller. That's all she wants to be. She wants to start afresh. She's being renewed. Just all that baggage, it's gone. I'm just me. I'm just a traveller. A mad woman in a box. And you want to come with me? Yeah, okay. We have some times. You're going to change, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And for the whole of Series 11, it pretty much is. To get those little knocks. They're not massive, but there are little knocks to a character. The first time the timeless child is mentioned. The time when she goes into the
desolation, isn't it? With the
that's it. That's thing. The Ghost Monument. And when it takes you away, there's that little pocket universe. Can't remember what it's called, but there's all that. And then in season 12, her world gets absolutely rocked, but she tries to continue, right? And then suddenly, Ryan and Graham decide they're not going to stick around now. They've kind of completed their journeys. They're doing their own thing. And then now suddenly in 13, we haven't her character ripped to pieces. The Master effectively destroyed her, or at least attempted to destroy her. He thought the whole Timeless Child revelation was going to destroy her. She didn't. It actually made her stronger. But nonetheless, he threw something into her world that absolutely rocked it, like Freya said, to the very core. It was torturing her, not knowing what this gap was. The fact it even existed. To think that there were so many other Doctors before the first time she could remember being a Doctor. That's not right. That's like suddenly, I don't know what that's like, but it's.
Well, you're right, Freya. So what a shocker.
Shocker. torturous.
Shocking,
word
torturous.
Shocking, torturous.
But it is, isn't it? And I do think that.
But now, sorry, I just remembered where I was actually going with this. Right. So now we get scenes in this episode, right, where she's snapping at Yaz, where, like you guys said, she's desperate, right, to find out more, to have more of these snapshots of this life that she can't remember, so she can try and fit it into a narrative and come to terms with it and figure out who the hell she really is, where she comes from. And we started this series with a really nice banter between the Doctor and Yaz. That seems to have gone by the end of this chapter, this episode, right? Yaz is kind of giving her space, I think. She seems like she's a bit upset by the way the Doctor's talking to her, but she's given her space, and the Doctor is taking that and sniping at it. So there's, and I love that. I love the sort of conflict between them. And going back to the Fifth Doctor thing, the Fifth Doctor was always grumpy with his companions. Always spent the whole time, every episode, thinking almost like,
we never
why am I saddled with these losers?
You never knew if he was really friendly with them, and
exactly. But he was a very compassionate Doctor, nonetheless, right? So with the Fifth Doctor, it was almost like he was put in the front of being snappy and everything else, and impatient, and actually he secretly cared.
He did
for Adric and Tegan and Turlo and this and the others, and actually he did, because the death of Adric affected him massively throughout the whole rest of that whole thing. And even when you look at the Cyberman encounters, the 12th Doctor loses Bill ends up as a Cyberman. She has
which 13 references,
and 13 in Villa Diodati again. She is not going to lose anybody to the Cyberman, and that passion, that energy, that hurt and that pain comes right out in 13's voice in that moment, that scene, and it's absolutely chilling. And Jodie plays those scenes so brilliantly. She can switch from being light and funny and ridiculous to as dark as Tennant on his darkest days, even more so. She's got the range. There is no two ways about it, and it's such a shame that she's leaving us shortly, because it feels like she's just getting into a stride.
I wonder where they're gonna take the character. I guess there's Darkness Before the Dawn, and I suspect there'll be
that's probably where we're at, I think.
Revelations and things from the Timeless Child and the fallout of that. But I would like to think it will end up working in her favor to make her stronger and bounce back from it.
I think so, because that's the thing that we all got to face. We all go through things in life, and there's two ways we can I say,
you let it crumble.
Easy, but you take these things and you absorb them. They become part of you. The pain, the tragedy, the losses, the happiness, the successes. You've got to take them all in. They inform your character, and they inform how you approach things in life. And that's kind of what the Doctor's doing. But obviously, the Doctor is a cosmic being, so these things have to happen on a cosmic scale. They've got to be massive. The universe itself, reality itself, has to be the thing that's at stake. And I'll tell you what, for me, this feels all right. Yes, it's sci-fi fantasy. It's all made up and everything else, but it has a much more, or it feels to me more grounded and more realistic, in quotations, than something like, and I'm sorry, I know I'm going to upset a lot of people here, but Journey's End, the reality bomb, Davros, and that whole thing, which I love. I love that story.
You love everything.
I do. It's Doctor Who, I love it all, really, right? But this felt like a bigger threat. This is a Legopolis style threat. Literally, the universe. There is a credible way for something to end the universe now. It's all made up, but it feels.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. But within it, you can believe it all, and yes, it does. There is a real threat to it, and I think the Flux itself and Swarm and Azura, they are, horrible characters. They are genuinely nasty and scary. Now I'm aware of the length that we've been chatting for.
Oh, we knew this was going to be a long one.
It's a big
episode.
Well, I'm not quite finished yet, but we do have some comments to get to in a minute. So all throughout the episode, and we've seen them previously, the angels have been sort of stalking Yaz, and I quite enjoyed her smacking one on the head with a PlayStation or whatever it was. But then one of them's gotten into the TARDIS at the end.
Taken over.
Now, what a cliffhanger again. What's it doing there? And how did it get there? And
the image of an angel is an angel,
Yeah.
And I can see something. Whatever you do, don't blink.
No, but like when you get a shot of an angel, I don't know if it's just me, but seriously, I don't blink.
You don't blink?
No.
You can't freak out?
Because I want to know. Right. First I did it because I wanted to see how hard it would be, because everyone seems to fail. And I'm like, it can't be that hard.
To not blink.
It is hard when you think
I do it every time an angel comes, and now it's just got to habit.
It's got a habit that you don't blink. That's a good defense mechanism.
Mm.
But did it also? I've got to tell you this as well, Geoff. Right? So because you know your mum, she turned my issue of DWM, Doctor Who magazine, around on its.
Oh yeah.
So, Freya's mum, my lovely wife, right? She saw my Doctor Who magazine face up in, just on the table in our bedroom, and she's like, "Oh, I can't be looking at that." She turned it over. Yeah, there's Jenny instead on the back.
And my sister, she's like literally watched one Doctor Who episode, and she watched it in school, and it was an Blink, angel one.
Yeah.
It was and she's so scared of them.
Freaks. She can't watch Doctor Who as a result of that.
No.
Can she?
I explained about the angels to my son, and when this one's DWM came, and he saw the picture of the angel on the front, he said, "Oh look," and he was staring at it. I caught him staring at it, and I said, "Oh look, here you go." I said, "Look at it," and I held it up, and I said, "Don't blink," and he eventually blinked. I bashed him in the face.
You moved it closer. Bastard. That's just rude.
There was it'll probably still be there, but I was on Snapchat a couple of weeks ago, and they had a filter, and it was a
yes, I saw that.
Don't blink one. I did it with you.
Did you do it with me?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, I did.
I must have failed it.
You did it really well. You passed it completely.
I do remember it. Yeah.
So following that cliffhanger, I'm kind of expecting next week's episode to be quite horror film style.
It looks, from the trailer, it looks fabulous. It's set in the 60s. I think it's got a real.
Yeah.
What was that? There was one
kid missing, isn't there?
In the 11th Doctor, I think. Was it Hyde? Yes, Hyde, which happened in the 70s.
In the ghosty house. Yeah.
This seems to have quite a similar sort of feel to it, at least from the trailer anyway. We'll find out, won't we? Next week.
So let me go over to our comments from our listeners. So our pal Multiverse of Mikenas, who's at Mike Wilson, he said, "I loved it. Personally, I'm having no problem keeping up, except where it's obvious we're not meant to know things yet. Epic sci-fi ideas proved a lot of my theories right from the Timeless Children, and I thought the acting was brilliant yet again. Fab cliffhanger." Our friend Lautaro Medina, who's at Doc Lautaro, he says, "Crazy episode full of twists and turns. I really loved how it jumped through the timelines. Great Weeping Angel stuff. Jodie delivers a great performance as usual, and Belle steals the episode." And then
love Belle.
Yeah, she was really cool, quite a friendly character, and so it'd be interesting to find out more about her. Salty Space Ghost, who is at Salty Grrl, which is GRRL, says, "Classic. There's a lot to unpack episode. Loving it. More questions popping up as the weeks go by. I agree that Belle is iconic, and the most iconic scene was Jodie falling through the time storm. Yes, it was cheesy, but it was time-honoured cheese.
That's
the
what
best
you were saying.
kind.
Proper cheese.
That's
Good cheese. Yeah, that's it.
And Salty Space Ghost has put a GIF of Jodie falling against Tom Baker falling into blackness.
There you go, from Planet of Evil.
Yeah. Fluxing Woman in a TARDIS, who's at Jodie's TARDIS 13, says, "Absolutely amazing look into the Doctor's past with the Division. Great to see Joe Martin again. The supporting characters are brilliant, and I can't wait to see where the story takes us." And then Marco, who's at Osu Marco, says, "Great episode. Love seeing the Fugitive Doc again. Dan and Vinder's backstories were great." So Mike Honor, at Mike Honor, he says, "Love last night's episode. Exposition heavy, yes, and some questionable CGI, but it also gave us some answers, set up more questions, a clever use of flashbacks, guest stars, and surprises. Chibbers is still surprising and exciting me. Jodie and Joe were on fire." And then he tweeted himself, and he said, "I'm not loving how prickly Doc is with Yaz, or that Doc and Dan haven't had a chance to bond." And so I've seen a few people say that they were upset that the Doc snapped at Yaz.
It's a natural reaction.
Yeah, it is. And well, Yaz pushed the Doctor in Evolution of the Daleks after she got out of space jail because she'd been gone for so long, and you don't like to see people that like each other and that you like fight and argue, but it's it's drama, and it wouldn't be as interesting if they just they've had a lovely time again today.
Exactly.
You said they were like a married couple.
I did say that. Yeah.
And
sometimes you hurt the people you care about the most, and
that's it. Yeah, and
because you're so familiar with them, you don't realize
And then
there's
your
an
emotions
extension of
take
you.
control.
And the Doctor is going through her own thing here, trying to find out who she is, and doesn't think that Yaz will understand, and Yaz is wanting to help and things, so that they're inadvertently pushing each other away. But I think it will all come right in the end. So
I hope so, but it's all part of. I mean, conflict drives drama a lot. And yes, it is nice to have happy, friendly things, happy, friendly relationships, particularly in the TARDIS, because you can get that if they're always spiky, they're going to get tiresome again. Sort of thinking a few times with the Fifth Doctor, those endless arguments just got a little bit too much on occasion, but they did nonetheless drive a lot of the drama. Some of the best.
Well, that's it. Yeah,
that's why I love Earthshock so much. There's a real conflict between the Doctor and Adric at the start of it, and at the end of it, Adric makes a big sacrifice, and it affects the Doctor deeply. And I love it when you did watch that one, yeah. And I love it when they pull these things out. They're great friends. I mean, I love the TARDIS team of Ryan, Yaz, and Graham. They found a really happy place. But it had to. I didn't forget his name. I'm just a little bit slow. But it had to change. And what changed was that Yaz and the Doctor became closer. We saw that at the start of Chapter 1. But now that's starting to kind of fray a little bit at the edges, because they're so close. I think that's what it is.
And they're going through an extremely difficult situation here. And I think the Doctor hasn't had much chance to bond with Dan because he has been thrown into this. And
he's taken it on to Chindo, hasn't he?
He's done all right. Very well. Yeah. But they haven't had a chance to have a sit down and a cup of tea.
No, they haven't.
But that will come, I'm sure.
It will. I'm sure it will.
So, for me, another cracking episode in the Flux.
An astonishing episode.
Astonishing.
Absolutely astonishing. Oh, yes. Freya asked, what's the thing about Belle?
With the thingy.
What's it called?
Tigby.
Oh, what
Tigby.
Tigby. Is it a Tigby?
Oh, the little...
The little Tamagotchi type.
Yeah.
Which struck me watching it the second time today is like a communication with her baby, her unborn baby. That's what I thought, transmitting love and little messages and little positive things, vibes to and fro,
that's really exactly what it was.
Yeah, I loved it. I didn't get it the first time round, but when we watched it today, I saw it and I went, oh yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
I love that. That little thing. There's a bigger story here, and you realise now that we're actually halfway through it. We've only got the same number of episodes to go, and then it's finished.
Yeah. Stop trying to eat me.
Well, on that note, we should probably say goodbye, and we'll be back next week for the Village of the Angels.
Oh yeah, can't wait that one. That's gonna be weird. That's gonna be like Midwich Cuckoos type of thing, but with weeping angels.
I'm looking forward.
Those old Quatermass type vibes. Yeah.
And more revelations.
More revelations, more story.
So. Thanks, as always, for listening, everyone, and for everyone who's tweeted us in. Thank you. We appreciate it. And we'll catch you. So thanks, Freya. Thanks for joining us. And we'll catch you next time on Who C2C.
Yay. See you next time.
Bye.
Geoff, behind you. Don't blink.
Paul, there's something at the window. It looks like an angel. Oh my God, it's got closer. Paul!
Yeah, okay, you do that.